Welcome everybody, Gup here, doing a free preview of the GupsCorner PGA Research Center and Tool package this week. It's been up most of COVID, but we've had a lot of things for the Colonial, especially the Green Machine, our custom in-house built lineup generator. So I wanted to first focus on that for everybody out there. Won't take too long to go through it. Then afterwards, if you're new or maybe missed the first or last video I did on the Research Center and PGA Model, I'll hit those at a high level just to show you a couple things, because everything here will be free through Sunday. You can go to GupsCorner.com/PGA-tools or just come to the GupsCorner.com, click here. You can click any of them, either way you want to do it. Everything here is live. The contest sweat tool is still the last thing that we will add. Obviously, the live tournament tools will not start until Thursday when the tournament goes live, but the rest of the stuff you can go in there and start messing around with now. Most of you are trying the Green Machine out now, and I've seen a bunch of questions, and mostly all solid questions, but some of them I want to just knock out here instead of having to repeat over and over in the Slack. If you still have questions after this, you can always reach out to myself, anybody on the team, really. We've all been messing with it for about a month behind the scenes with some of the outlaw stuff, NASCAR stuff. Kind of wanted to, get it fine-tuned before putting the beta testing out for you guys, and then take your feedback and keep enhancing it. Hopefully I hit most of the questions or stuff that we're going to add for sure on the next couple releases. You'll be able to tell right off the bat that up here, you can see which version we're on. If you have general feedback like, hey, I'd like to see this, can we do this, stuff like that, you can click here. If you've gone through this and you're having an issue or concern, click this at any time, type your description or whatever it is, and what Bobby can do in the background is he'll be able to capture what you've gone through, your settings, your selections, whatever, so that he can try to recreate the problem instead of us having to guess or go back and forth with you. So it's a pretty cool add-on that we have there without you guys having to say, well, I collect this, I kit this many guys, yada, yada. Kind of focused on PGA today, but you can tell we got MMA and NASCAR. MMA, the only negative right now, and it will be added, is that two guys fighting each other can automatically get generated in a lineup. We will have a feature down the road that, you can say, don't let any two guys fighting each other be in the same lineup shortly. NASCAR is good to go. It's just like PGA. We will have football as well in the fall once we get closer to that. So here, simply PGA, we're up for the Charles Schwab Challenge. By this point, you probably have, how many lineups you're going to build, and hopefully you got your player pool kind of selected. I'll kind of go through that after this with the Research Center and the model. On here, you can put any min-max price. I'll get to why that's important in a second. Just to say I'm going to do this as a default. All this means, if you're kind of new, is your total salary of all your lineups won't be more than $49,900 and it won't be less than $49,100. You want to put something here. You could get some crazy results. So you can't just leave it 0 and 50,000, or that it may spit out real crazy lineups. You can if you want. I just want you to be aware of. I would put a min and a max regardless of where you want it to be. It's up to you. I'm just going to do 50 lineups just for this time. Excuse me. When you get to select players, you can, as you select, you'll see this change, so you know how many you're selecting if you want to keep a certain number. If you, especially with golf, NASCAR wasn't as big of a deal because there's like 40 guys. UFC, there's 24 or so. Golf, as this week's 148. You can get kind of consuming. So if you don't want to scroll all the time, you can search for a guy, click him, keep searching, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to randomly select a bunch of guys for now, just to make it go through and then kind of talk through the ins and outs. The importance as you start building your pool and how we built this behind the scenes of, guys, percentages, salary ranges. You can't just click the top 25 price guys, or it's not going to be able to build 50-ish lineups. And I'll show you what can happen on that, what happens with the percentages, and kind of why we did that. So, at 39, let's get another lower price guy. So this guy got 40 players built. Player percentages, you got a couple options here. You can start out and do equal percentages. So it'll take the number of guys divided by 600. Um, as you can see here, everything has to equal 600 right on the dot. It's just the math of how the lineup generator, any of them out there in industry kind of work. So if you want to do it simple and then adjust from here, you can do that, or you can clear them all and start from scratch. You know what you want to do. You can hit the lock button, and that guy will be 100% no matter how it turns out. You got a bunch of options. One thing that you'll notice is as you put certain percentages in and we go to the next tab, it may not equal exactly. And when I was working with Bobby on building this, one of the things I told him that other generators or optimizers, however you want to say it, sometimes have issues is they try to make it, they try to fit it perfectly to the needs or whatever you guys want. And what's hard about that is the salary restrictions compare with the percentages. So you can't have 60% Rory, JT Brooks, and then everybody else 5% or something. The math just won't work out. And so what can happen on some generators or optimizers, it'll time out, it won't return enough lineups, so on and so forth. And we didn't want that because it gets frustrating. And what we wanted to do was we're going to take your input, your percentages based on your pool, and return the best 50 lineups that it's going to generate as close as you want it. But if you have a guy that was 30% and he comes in 12%, or a guy that's 15% and he comes in 25%, more likely than not, the issue is either the number of players in your pool or the salary in your pool. So you have either too high of high dollar salaries or not enough low to mix in the right mix, and kind of going back and forth will let you kind of get to know that. So don't get frustrated if you have a guy that you want a ton of exposure to and you're not getting them. The biggest deal is either you contact us and we kind of work through it, and I may do some more one-on-one videos as we start getting into the lineups and stuff. But as you do it, you'll kind of notice like, oh, I probably have too much 8,000 guys, or I have too much percentage up here high and it's not generating, however you want it. What you'll notice is you can't run it until this equals 600. So as you go down and fill out every single one of these guys, obviously I don't want to do that and take everybody's time. You'll have to have it equals 600 up here at the top before it'll run. I'm just going to do a couple real quick. So now I got 600. I'm just going to, generate lineups real quick. So what it'll do is it's going to generate the 50 lineups, and it's going to show you how many lineups you're in and the percentage. Like I showed you earlier, we wanted 30% Rory, but the way that, the math was, all that kind of stuff, it got up to 40%. Now, that's way high. So we could go in and rerun it. We could tinker with our percentages. I mean, you can simply just hit regen unlocked lineups. And what that means is any lineup you haven't locked, it's going to regenerate a new lineup. What does that mean? So if you want to, and you go through your lineups or ones you love, you can lock them. So let's lock these top 3 and then regenerate. It's going to regenerate 47 lineups and keep the 3 you had and keep going until you get it the way you want it. One feature we have in here that's just a baby step is, let's say I want to see all my Patrick Reed lineups. Well, I can type in Reed and it'll filter down and just show me all the lineups that Reed are in. So if there's one you love, you're like, oh, I like that one. I like that one. I like that one. You can kind of play with it like that and then regen again. And it's going to keep, anytime you lock a lineup, it's going to keep it in there. And then it's going to keep regenerating over and over and over. What we will do in the future is we'll do that same function. Let's say we go to Brooks. And if you want to, what the next step will be is every lineup with Brooks, if you think you have too much Brooks in your pool, then you want to, let's say you only wanted 2 Brooks, I'm just hypothetically speaking, you'll be able to come in here and select him and change him, edit the lineup live. That's kind of a feature we're working on now that'll probably come out, in the next few weeks, but that'll be a cool feature. But for now, you can still search and lock and do it any way you want. If you want to start getting in depth with how you're locking your lineups. Let's say you just get through here and you're like, man, this is not the way that I'm liking things going. You can come back over here, restart the whole slate. So I just did equal, everybody 15%. generate lineups, and it'll redo it from scratch again, and you can kind of see how it's going. So, some of the keys I would emphasize in doing this, just to keep it simple, is if it's not getting where you want it percentage wise, I would look at the player pool. I would look at your min and max salary. So if you're really having trouble, you may have that min and max too tight, or if you're getting all kinds of crazy results, you may have it too wide. In general, I try to keep it, 49.1, 49.2 up to 49.9. I never, especially in a GPP type build, do 50. But those are some of the things, like you may have this down to, 49. You're trying to get it too cute, 49.4 and 49.6 or something like that, which is, it's just too tight that you're going to really have trouble with your percentages there. So I would leave this wide enough that you have flexibility, but you can lock it down a little bit so you can try to create some uniqueness. What you'll notice, one thing I like is, just because if you have all these locked in at prices and you want to add somebody, I like that he put it like I can add Woodland and come over here, and it's not going to mess with your percentages. Let me go back. Sorry. So now I got Woodland. Make sure you hit next. Well, Woodland's going to pop in here at 0. So if all these have percentages on it, then you can change them. So it doesn't restart all your percentages. So you don't have to start all the way over, because that can be annoying. We know that. But if you add Woodland, say, I want to make my pool bigger, and now resurface it out, it'll do that. And if the math isn't, 100%, it'll take the bottom 1 or 2 and we'll make them maybe 0 or whatever, sometimes 5. I mean, you can kind of play with it from there if you want to be simple and quick. Me personally, I will do my percentages by hand per se. And I'll have them played off of my ownership percentages, which I know that's one question we've been asked. Are you going to, yes, the goal will be to have default ownership percentages in here that you can play off of for GPP builds, where it'll say, well, we think Rory's going to be, and it'll probably be a window. I mean, mine will be exact that I still put out, but we may go like mine may show Rory 26% this week. So on here, we may have an ownership column and it'll say 22 to 28, just so you can kind of gauge where he's going to be. Because we always know there's going to be plus and minuses to all that. So let's just say we're going to generate these. I just want to show you the last step. Let's say you love these lineups, you're ready to go. You can click download, open it, and your CSV is ready to load into the system. So, you can load this straight into DraftKings' lineups. You can export your contests that you already have selected, add your lineups, load them, do all that yourself. It's ready to go. People have used it all weekend. They use it in NASCAR. We had a lot of great feedback. People have already been messing around with it in golf. They love it. We'll be adding and enhancing this. We'll have wave options. That's a feature that we've already put on that we're starting to work on. So if we get into a version where you want to do, say you're building 40 lineups and you want 10 a.m., 10 p.m., and 20 mixed, we'll have that option. And then, it gets a little, when you start adding those features, you got to be cognizant of how you're building them, because you get real tight on your player pool, but we'll give you the option to do that. Especially if it's a huge wage advantage. I want all AM guys. I know that that's something that will come up a few times a year, so we're going to add that to you. Again, it's a beta version. You guys can check it out all week for free. If you've already checked out the Research Center and PGA Model or using it, you can probably go ahead and go back, ask us some questions. If you're new, we've had a ton of new members coming. This is our Research Center. So you can come in here. This week's at Charles Schwab. I'm just going to high level it. You have the option to look at all players or field only. You can look at different years, depending on how you want it. This is, obviously for this event, let's say there was a crazy weather year and you don't want 2017 included. You can look at that. Strokes gained is one that we all kind of like to go to. So I like to look at the plus minuses of guys that have done well, top 5, top 10 type finishes versus the guys that, maybe made the cut and didn't do well or missed the cut, and see what stands out at that course. We do have more features for this coming that'll kind of rank that as the year goes along. You can pull up the leaderboard for any given year. All these years you have selected. So you can come here and, what's the best score shot in the last 4 years? Justin Rose, 20 under. Strokes gained. You can sort this by any way you want. You can do all entries, 25 entries, 50 entries, however you want to see it. Doesn't matter, and scroll down it. And again, like if you think 2017, we go back and say, maybe on the pod, I tell you, hey, it was soaked that year. It's just totally different than any other year. You can uncheck it. So then all the stuff you're looking at doesn't have that one in the year. Again, we're just looking at this course only to see kind of how you're building it. What's done well here is kind of what I use this for. Your field research, same deal. This is a quick and easy version of, I want to look at the last 24 rounds, strokes gained, say top 50. I think approach is going to be good. You look at that. Morikawa is number one in the last 24 rounds out of everybody in the field right now. If you want to look at the individual guy, so this isn't just Charles Schwab. This is their last 24 rounds period on tour right now. And if you really think around the green is going to be important this week, you can go, Benny On's been number one in the last 24 rounds. If you want to see longer, I want to see the last 48 rounds. You can do that as well. See if it changes much. Stricker, Noren, On. You can kind of see those guys as well. We do have a feature coming where you'll be able to export this stuff, which will be great. You can go as long as 192 rounds and kind of see short term to long term. As I was saying in detail, you can look at the guys. Now, all this will come out in the model. I'll show you in just a second. But, let's say, I want to see Benny On, how he's done overall because he's doing really well short. I can look at his last 24. It's going to show his last 24 rounds on tour of these major characteristics or statistics. You can do scoring. So, you want to see how many birdies, eagles. You can do DFS, DK points, FanDuel points, Super Draft points. You can go a little more in depth. Say, I want to see just his driving stats. I can look at all his driving stats for any individual player. I use this a lot. I come back to it like Tuesday or Wednesday when I'm deep diving. Maybe I'm comparing two guys. Probably not going to be Zach Blair, but maybe down to up top. Someone like, okay, Fowler hadn't done well. Let me see his last 96. Maybe there's just something I'm missing here on what's done well. I tend to stick to the strokes gain in general on this one because I want to see, trends and stuff with what they've been doing. I also want to see what rounds are being counted when. So maybe I'm focusing on 24 rounds and I kind of want to get a picture of how far is that going back? Well, right now, especially with the layoff, it's going back to August for some of these guys that have been playing a lot, like Ricky, he's played plenty. So that's what this kind of field research lets you do. You can dive in and out of that as deep as you want into individual guys. The course research, so this will kind of get you how has each hole played, the yardage, distance, how many aces, albatross, eagle, birdie, par, bogey, double, other, what's it scoring to par, what's the easiest hole, what's the hardest hole, what's the most DK points. Normally it correlates, sometimes it doesn't. So that way you can kind of get a picture of the entire course. Like I was talking about earlier, if you think there's a certain year that a course may play differently, you can look at that if you want. It's really however you want to do it. This is more just kind of get a feeling of the course. How many par fives, how many par threes, what's the distance they played. If the course has changed a lot, you may want to take a look at this because it can kind of show you the difference in a few years. Once you kind of get that picture, this is kind of the bread and butter, your PGA model. I'll build one real quick. A lot of guys have already used this, and this has had massive upgrades since our first rollout. Again, I'm going to use field only. Get a drink real quick. I'll build something real simple. So let's just say this week we're going to look at, I'll kind of use the one I did earlier. Let's say I'm going to look at good approach. I'm going to add the calc. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to go to approach, good approach. We do have a glossary that you can go to and read what they mean at any given time. But I'm going to go to good approach and weight it 20%. I'm just going to do simple 5. I think tee to green is going to be kind of big this week just because we don't have a lot on these guys lately. So I just want to see total overall game. So I'll go to strokes gained, tee to green. We'll do 20% again. Let's say ball striking is always one I like to add. I'm going to do a unique one with putting here in a minute, just kind of show you that feature if you're new. So I'm going to go strokes gained, ball striking, 20%. Then I'm going to do putting, but because I know it's bent greens, I'll show you a feature here in a second. For now, I'm going to put putting, strokes gain, putting 20%. And then I'm going to do scoring ops inside 18. No, I know what I'm doing. We like around the green this week. So let's add around the green. So I'm going to do strokes gain around the green, 20%. So simple right there. You can use this to kind of go, or you can literally type in whatever you want. We'll just keep it simple and go 20. The last 28 rounds, min round, I want them to at least play 2 rounds. Because of the break, let's say I'm going to go back to May of last year, just kind of making it up. Because these are set on global, all these statistics will use what you put in here. You only have to do it once. So each one of these are set on global right now. Now, the unique thing I was going to tell you, like putting, I know is only Bermuda this week. So what I may do is go local data. And I want to see last 36 rounds, minimum 2. I'm gonna go back a little farther because they don't play a lot of bent. So let's say I go back to January of 18. Green type though, I only want to see bent because they're putting on bent this week. So what that means, because I did local data, everything else is going to use my global statistics. The putting is only going to use this because I only want to see what they did well putting on bent. So you're done. You do that. You get all your things loaded here. You're good to go. You can check them. You go build model. It'll kind of run through everything for you. And for you loyal long-time guys, you know how much pain we have with this when we rolled it out. So we appreciate your patience, but ADHD has done an amazing job. You guys were great in feedback. So there you go. It spits it out. Once you see these guys down here, you can kind of spit it out. You can do visual if you want, mess with all that. That's up to you. I can explain all that, but that's going to be a deeper pod. I want to keep this a little short. You can come over here, field. It's going to verify, it's going to show there's 147 guys currently in the field in DraftKings, which I mentioned on the pod and the smash. If you were using all players, which you can do, you can build a model to see all for whatever reason. It would include everybody that fits that category out of all the players we have in there. So this just kind of lets you know the field's good. You're ready to go. Come over here to model output and summary. My number 1 ranked player is Rory. In this model, JT, EVR, so on and so forth. You can look at them on here if you like. And if you want to make sure your stuff came through, correctly, you can tell right here. You notice on putting, it's the 36, longer year, so on and so forth. You can look at it on here if you want, but a lot of people like to put it on there so you can click it. I hope this is staying in the screen because there we go. So then you can come out here on your export and then you can sort, do whatever you want. If you can do some mixed modeling, recent form, course history, you can build it in here. So basically just saying Rory's my number 1 ranked player. Here's the model weighting, how they did it. If you want to look at, well, who's the best on my good approach here? EVR. You can kind of do all that. Real quick summary. There's a ton here. We're still kind of in infancy stage, I believe, but I do think we have one of the better complete packages and tools out here. If you have more questions on that, I'm free. I'm around all the time now. So hit me up. I will be doing some member only in depth of these. So I'll start going into some of the deep stuff, how to look for it, what to look for, get some other people on to bounce things off back and forth. But hopefully you enjoyed all that. I wanted to keep it short. If you guys have any questions, reach out to me or anybody on the team. We'll get you answered. And good luck building this week, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.